This week in tech has really felt like we're stepping into a sci-fi movie, wouldn't you say?
Totally.
Amazon is testing humanoid robots now, like actually shaped like humans.
Yeah, I saw that digit, they're calling it.
Digit. Working alongside the human employees in their warehouses.
Wild, right? Warehouse work, though. That's just the beginning, I bet.
You think so?
This kind of thing, it makes you think about how we handle these big leaps in technology.
It's a lot to take in, for sure. This news was from Siberoloji, by the way, their weekly tech roundup.
Oh yeah, they always have a good pulse on what's happening.
Exactly. And it's not just robots either. This week has been nuts. AI, space exploration, you name it.
And it all seems to be happening so fast. Like, are we ready for all of this?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's exciting and a little bit unnerving at the same time.
Exactly. Like, take those warehouse robots, right? Amazon's saying they'll handle the dangerous stuff, the repetitive tasks.
Freeing up humans to do more creative work, supposedly.
Right. But then you have to wonder about the people whose jobs are those tasks. What happens to them?
It's the classic automation dilemma.
Exactly. Remember the Industrial Revolution. It's
Yeah.
like that jobs change, industries shift.
And sometimes people get left behind in the process.
Exactly. So it's not just about the technology itself, it's how we adapt to it.
Yeah.
Companies like Amazon, they have a responsibility here. Retraining programs, maybe, new kinds of jobs that blend human skills with the robots. And fairness, of course, can't forget about that.
Absolutely. It all ties into another big story this week, actually self-driving cars. Remember Cruise? The company owned by General Motors.
Yeah, what about them?
They've had to slam the brakes on their driverless car program in San Francisco. Big accident, apparently.
Oh, wow. I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, pretty big setback for the whole autonomous vehicle industry. Raises all sorts of questions about safety, regulations. Can we really trust machines to make life or death decisions?
Makes you think, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's robots in warehouses or cars on the road, it's the same basic issue. How much autonomy are we comfortable with? How do we make sure these technologies are used safely and ethically?
Transparency is key, I think, and clear ethical guidelines. Speaking of ethical dilemmas, have you heard about this asteroid sample NASA just got back?
Oh yeah, from that OSIRIS-REx mission. They're saying it's got carbon and water in it.
That's the thing, right? To the average person, that might not sound like a big deal, but the scientists are freaking out about it.
Because it's huge. We're talking about the potential ingredients for life itself.
It's like getting a glimpse into the very origins of life on our planet.
Imagine that. A little piece of rock, millions of miles away, holding clues to the biggest questions about where we come from. Just incredible.
But while NASA is out there collecting space rocks, things here on Earth are getting, shall we say, a little more complicated, especially in the world of social media.
Oh, tell me about it. That whole thing with Meta and the lawsuits.
Meta, Facebook.
Right, right. Hard to keep up with all the name changes, honestly.
I know, right? Anyway, it seems like every other day there's a new study about the negative effects of social media.
And now you've got the Attorney General of California going after them, too?
It makes you wonder, are these just growing pains for a relatively new technology? Or is there something more fundamentally wrong with how these platforms are designed?
And it's not just Meta, either. You've got TikTok, YouTube. They're all facing similar scrutiny. Addictive algorithms, misinformation, the impact on young people's mental health. It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. And then, of course, there's AI. The U.S. Senate held its second AI Insight Forum this week, trying to figure out how to regulate this technology that seems to be changing by the minute.
Yeah, good luck with that, right? AI moves fast.
And it's not just the government playing catch-up. Some of the biggest names in tech, Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, just pledged $10 million to an AI safety fund.
Wow, so even they're a little bit concerned then.
$10 million is a drop in the bucket for those companies, though. You really think they're worried about AI getting out of control, or is it just good PR?
Honestly, it's probably a bit of both. But even that concern, it speaks volumes. Think about it. We've got governments scrambling to regulate, tech giants throwing money at safety measures.
It's not just our imaginations. Then AI really is advancing at a crazy pace.
Oh, absolutely. It's exciting, don't get me wrong. Healthcare, education, the potential is mind-blowing. But yeah, there's that flip side. What if we lose control?
It's like that old saying, we create our own demons.
Exactly. And the stakes have never been higher. Job displacement, social manipulation, even autonomous weapon systems. These aren't sci-fi scenarios anymore.
We're talking about real-world risks that we need to be prepared for. And like you were saying, it's not just about making AI work, it's about making sure it works for us.
100%. And that's what's interesting about this AI safety fund, right? It's not just about making sure the algorithms are stable, it's about understanding the broader impact on society, the ethical side of things.
So it's not enough to have the engineers, we also need the philosophers and the ethicists at the table.
Exactly. It takes a village to raise an AI, right?
Yeah.
And it goes beyond AI, too.
Mm.
Robots, social media, biotechnology. The technology itself is just a tool. What matters is how we use it, what values we build it on.
Our choices determine the outcome, not the code itself.
100%. And speaking of choices, we were talking about social media earlier and the impact it's having on young people. The lawsuits against Meta, all that. It's not a new conversation, but it feels like it's really heating up now.
Yeah, and it's not just about one company or one platform, right? It's a whole generation that's growing up online. And we're just starting to understand the long-term effects.
It's like, remember when social media first came on the scene? Everyone was so optimistic. Connection, community, all that good stuff.
And it's not like those things are gone, but the downsides are becoming impossible to ignore.
Exactly. Addiction, anxiety, depression, body image issues, cyberbullying. The list goes on. And it's hitting young people particularly hard. Their brains are still developing. They're more susceptible to this stuff.
So what's the solution here? Do we just accept it as the price of progress? Or do we need a radical rethink of how these platforms work?
That's the million-dollar question, right? There's no easy answer. But I think it starts with acknowledging that this is a serious problem, and it's going to take a multi-pronged approach to fix it.
Governments, tech companies, parents, educators, we all have a role to play.
Exactly. Governments need to step up and create regulations that protect young people online. Tech companies need to take responsibility for the impact their platforms are having and prioritize well-being over engagement.
And we need to equip young people with the tools and skills they need to navigate the digital world safely and responsibly. Digital literacy, critical thinking, media awareness, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And it's not just about telling kids what not to do online. It's about empowering them to be active, engaged citizens in the digital space.
We've said it before, but it's worth repeating. This isn't just about waiting for someone else to fix it. We all have a stake in this.
100%.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another big development this week. The G7's announcement of an AI code of conduct. The G7, that's the group of the world's most powerful economies, right?
Right. The big dogs are finally getting involved in AI regulation. Does this actually have any teeth, or is it just a bunch of empty promises?
Well, it's not legally binding yet. So more like a set of guidelines or recommendations for how companies should develop and use AI responsibly. Think of it as a starting point.
Okay, so it's a step in the right direction. What kind of things are they recommending?
Transparency is a big one. The G7 wants companies to be more open about their AI systems, how they're designed, what data they're trained on. They're also calling for risk assessments before AI is deployed in sensitive areas, like healthcare or finance.
Makes sense. You don't want AI making life or death decisions without some serious oversight.
Exactly. And of course, there's the whole issue of international cooperation. AI development doesn't stop at national borders, so you need countries working together to establish common standards and ethical frameworks.
That's always the challenge with these global issues, isn't it? Getting everyone on the same page. But even if this code of conduct is just a first step, it does signal a growing awareness that AI development can't happen in a vacuum.
Exactly. Just like with those warehouse robots and the impact of social media, it all comes back to finding the balance between innovation and responsibility.
Progress without consequences is a dangerous illusion. We've learned that lesson the hard way too many times.
And hopefully we're starting to realize that the future of technology isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we create.
It's a lot to think about, that's for sure. And it feels like every week there's a new headline about some crazy technological advancement.
It can feel like you're trying to hold on to a rocket ship sometimes, But that's kind of the world we live in now. Rapid change, constant innovation.
And the big question is, are we ready for it? This past week alone, we've talked about robots replacing human jobs, AI that could be a blessing or a curse, the impact of social media on our mental health.
It's
A lot to process.
It really is. And it's easy to feel overwhelmed or even powerless in the face of all this. Like, what can one person even do, right?
That's what I'm wondering. What can we do? I mean, we're not all tech CEOs or government regulators, but we're the ones who are ultimately affected by these technologies.
You hit the nail on the head. It's easy to think of this as something happening to us. But the truth is, we have agency here. We have choices to make every single day.
So it's not just about staying informed, it's about actually doing something with that information. But where do we even start?
Well, awareness is the first step, like you said. And these conversations, they matter. Deep dives like this, podcast, articles, expose yourself to different perspectives. Talk to people who are working on these technologies, but also people who are impacted by them.
So read up, listen, discuss, basically, don't bury your head in the sand.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask the tough questions. Challenge the status quo. Hold these companies accountable. If you don't like the way something is being developed or used, speak up. Write to your elected officials. Support organizations that are fighting for ethical technology.
So knowledge is power, but action is where the real change happens.
Absolutely. And remember, the future isn't some predetermined thing. We're creating it right now with every choice we make. So let's make sure it's a future that works for everyone.
That's a great place to leave it. The future is ours to create a future where technology empowers us, not controls us. And who knows what incredible advancements await us in the weeks and months to come. Until next time, keep your minds open and your curiosity piqued. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.